So welcome to our webinar. As Rakesh said, my name is Matt Vazdenskas. I am CEO and co-founder of Flux Capacity, and we bring resource intelligence to the App Exchange in partnership with Taskray. So our agenda is exactly what you would want to see in a webinar like this. We're going to spend most of today's webinar inside the Flux Capacity app in a live demo. First, let's power through a quick bit of background so the demo makes sense for you. First, it's important to understand that we are built in close partnership with Taskray, another one of the App Exchange's most trusted brands. If you're not using Taskray for project management or customer onboarding, you really should be. If you want to learn more about Taskray, they are presenting at next week's App Exchange Hour, as Rakesh mentioned, so please check it out. Second thing to understand about Flux Capacity, we are 100% Salesforce native. And finally, we are not a quick hit VC funded app run by people that don't know Salesforce very well. We are Salesforce experts first and foremost. We've been in this ecosystem as consultants and admins for 13 plus years and built an app that's really rooted in our experiences. So what is Flux Capacity all about? Aside from having an awesome name reminiscent of the 80s, we categorize our offering as resource intelligence. So Flux includes really the standard elements of resource management that you'd expect, and you see those here. But in addition to that, we're really all about using the combination of project and sales data to run a highly transparent resource management function. Remember, Taskray provides all the underlying project management functionality involving task management, time logging, and repeatable templates. We supplement that core with a focus on resource management. So with that, let's hop into our demo. First thing to understand about Flux Capacity as we look at it live in the app is that the heart of the system is what we call Flux Resources. And so these are the people that are working on your projects and logging time and working tasks. And so we see for each of those resources, we store an expanded set of information that includes details about their utilization targets, billable and non-billable, splits of that utilization. And let's look at a specific resource and dive a little deeper. So we look at Maggie Donaldson here. Maggie is a member of our onboarding specialist team. And it looks like Maggie is targeted really to work about 7 hours per day. And what that really means is that we expect Maggie's logging time in her project management system to the tune of 7 hours per day. Now, Maggie has responsibilities for both billable work and some side projects and non-billable internal efforts. And so you'll see here that we're able to establish a clean split between billable and non-billable targets. In addition to the information that we store about Maggie and her team membership, another important element of resource management, of course, is understanding not just when people are available and what their utilization targets are, but almost as importantly, when they're expected to be out of the office. And so here we see in the form of what we call Flux Time Away, a combination of USA holiday dates, as you see here, Christmas, Thanksgiving, etc., but also a few days that are personal days for Maggie. So she has a trip planned to Aspen coming up the second week of November and recently completed or had a personal day earlier this month. So that's important to factor when we look at resource availability, obviously, because things that are going to pull us out of the office should be reflected when scheduling work. A few other things we see kind of at a glance about Maggie is that we're managing a very close, an individual view of her forecast in the form of her workload, and then also a rear view mirror view of actual utilization leading up to this week And so this is really comprised of all of the time logs that she's been logging in Taskray compared to her utilization targets. And we'll actually see that come to life in the system here in just a minute as well. So now that we understand the concept of a resource and our setup, let's talk a little bit more about what we really bring in terms of value to a resource management team. So here we're looking at the Flux Forecast dashboard. And you'll see here we have a set of dashboard filters, and it's also worth noting, since we're a Salesforce native app, that we're able to deliver our analytics package purely via Salesforce reports and dashboards. So of course, with that, all of these dashboards, the underlying source reports are all customizable to meet your spec. But what we're looking at here is an out-of-the-box dashboard, and we're currently filtered to just look at our active projects across all teams for the next upcoming 8 weeks. And so what we see here is an individual view of forecasted utilization. So this is factoring in all the tasks that are assigned to our individual resource team members and the estimated time on those tasks compared to their individual targets. And of course, factoring out or factoring into that the time that they may have out of the office in the form of time away. On the left side, we see roll-ups of that at team level. So here we get, I think, what's a really important view of just how utilized our teams are and where we see some underutilization and potentially overutilization. So how do we act on this information? Let's take a look, and we see a spike as we sort of plan forward a few weeks in advance, and we see that Maggie's actually scheduled or overbooked to the tune of 121%. So let's drill into that. And as expected, an underlying Salesforce dashboard is presented. And we look at some of the interesting data behind the scenes here. So we're able to understand that this week of November 8th, looks like Maggie has 17 hours of work scheduled. All right, and so that's coming from really all of the Taskray tasks that have been assigned to Maggie. We're also able to see, if you remember her 7 hours a day extrapolated over a 5-day business week, she has typical a utilization target here of 35 hours. But if you remember, Maggie had time planned out of the office for that trip to Aspen, which is actually going to pull her out of the office for 3 days. So her resulting capacity that week is only 14 hours. And obviously, being assigned a workload of 17 hours is going to push her over her limit. So let's take action in advance. And what we see when we drill into kind of some of the raw details here is we see this webinar task actually has quite a bit of work associated with it. And so we drill into this and actually look at this inside of Taskray. We can present as a lightning component within the Taskray task screen, the ability to take action and reassign this individual task. So here we see that this task, which really encompasses a couple of weeks, but most of the work is scheduled for this week of the 8th, we can see other people that are on that onboarding specialist team that Maggie's a member of and determine in real time, based on all their workload, what their resulting utilization would be if we were to reschedule this task to them. So based on this, it looks like assigning this task to Ashley will still keep her in a comfortable range of and not be overworked. And so we're going to go ahead and make that assignment. And so it's a great example of how, having information really surfaced in Salesforce reports and dashboards, but also giving ability to take action on that is going to improve really life for everyone, make life easier for a resource manager. But also now, as we look at that week for Maggie, she's now back in a comfortable range and she can enjoy her time out of the office. Another really powerful capability that we offer, and I mentioned before, one of our key goals in the Flux app is the combination of project data, but also sales opportunity data to understand resource forecasting and availability. So what we've looked at thus far in the demo is really very specific to just our active project work. But what if, as a resource manager or maybe a consulting practice lead, I want to understand what's going on in the pipeline and what the impact is going to be to our resource teams based on opportunities that are coming down the road. So here I have the ability, and we can customize this to really look at any field that you use on your opportunity. Maybe it's stage. Here we're using forecast category, or maybe you use some other custom field to represent a confidence level of your opportunities. But if I want to say, you know what, show me what the resulting workload is going to look like if our committed deals close on schedule. And what you probably noticed when that dashboard loaded is that, you know, if those deals close, we're actually seeing some of these bars pushed to the right, representing that, you know, we're going to see some bottlenecks and some resource constraints for our ERP consultant team starting that week of November 1st and extending out. And if we wanted to look maybe at our best case set of opportunities, and as that loads, we see that, yep, ERP consultants are really going to be stretched. And we're also starting to see some concerns with availability of our onboarding specialist team, especially as that extends into late November. So from this, you know, we can take action. We can, first of all, keep an eye on this because we know these are open opportunities. So maybe we want to keep a closer eye on those opportunities that are having impact here. But we also may want to plan ahead. And it looks like, you know, there is decent availability across some of these other teams. So maybe now's a good opportunity, you know, before this wave of new work hits, to start doing a little bit of cross training for our payroll consultants, which appear to have good availability, and start to cross train them on the ERP functionality of our solution. Okay, so how do we make that work? And really, what are the underpinnings of being able to produce a really awesome forecast like that? Let's take a look at a specific opportunity and explain some of the details of what's going on behind the scenes there. So here we see Capterra Software, which is an opportunity currently targeted to close November 2nd. So it's a couple of weeks out. It's in a commit category, so we're confident that this is going to close. And what we do with this opportunity is we introduce the concept of what we call a Flux Forecast type. And if I expand this field, really what this is, and this really taps into one of the key differentiators of Taskray, is the concept of project templates. But we map to different Taskray project templates at an individual opportunity level so that we can understand if this opportunity closes on schedule, we anticipate that an advanced onboarding project will result. And so if we drill into that, we can see really what the makeup of that forecast project looks like. So again, this isn't an active project that we're taking action on and working on directly right now. It's something that would likely start on November 2nd, which is our opportunity close date. And this is the resulting work that's going to land on our onboarding specialist teams, our ERP consultant teams, et cetera. So what happens if, as it often does, you know, sales is working with a client, and for whatever reason that that deal pushes back, and let's say they're not planning on being able to close or sign that deal until after Thanksgiving. So the great thing about our forecasting engine is that it very closely stays in alignment with your opportunity close dates. So we see that a shift of the opportunity close date has now actually pushed that forecast project, which was slated to begin November 2nd. It's now slated to begin November 30th. So in real time, simply by sales reps doing their job of keeping their opportunities up to date with accurate stages and forecast categories and close dates, we're able to leverage that. And our dashboards, the forecast dashboard that we were just looking at, of course, is going to reflect that in real time as well. All right, so some really cool stuff to be able to predict what's going on. Here we're looking at just an individual opportunity, but imagine, across your entire pipeline, each of those projects at a certain, or each of those opportunities at a certain stage in your sales process can introduce this concept of a forecast project to seed reporting for purposes of resource forecasting. Couple other notes here. We've exposed this field, and I've showed how we've been able to interact with this just by, editing this drop down. We can also, of course, set this through automation. So if, for example, we have a set of products that, based on those products, are going to impact the task load or the makeup of a project, we can dynamically construct these forecast projects in Taskray based on products selected, or maybe based on some demographic factors of the opportunities account. And so interacting with this field can be done manually, as I've shown, but we can also automate that based on other characteristics of the opportunity or account. Okay, so let's fast forward and let's say this deal closes. Let's go ahead and mark this as 1. All right, so congratulations to our sales rep, a hard-fought win. And now what do we do with that forecast project? Well, by default, that forecast project is archived, meaning it has served its purpose, so to speak, for reporting needs. And so you have a couple of options here, and we'll work through this with you during onboarding. You can either create a brand new project and kick off that project using another template, or maybe using a fresh template. But a lot of customers choose to repurpose that forecast project and use this process of conversion. So in a single click, we take that forecast project, which previously was just serving a purpose for reporting, and now we're going to repurpose this and turn it into our live delivery project. Okay, now we have our live project, which is ready to be worked. And so to get started, let's drill into that project in Taskray. And if you remember, when we looked at that individual task earlier that we were reassigning for Maggie, we're now looking at a similar view of resulting utilization of our resources based on if they were assigned to this project. So we see that this project and the template that we're using is comprised of tasks that involve our onboarding specialist team, our training team, and our ERP consultant team. So within those teams, we can make individual assignments, and we can span across really the duration of the project to understand where we may have resources that would be too busy to take the work. And so here we're going to go ahead and assign this first bucket of the onboarding specialist to Maggie, the trainer to our Flux admin, and our ERP consultant to Andrew, who is currently a team of 1, but it looks like he can handle that work without issue. So we'll make those assignments. And now our project is ready to go. So inside of Taskray, and again, I invite you to participate in next week's demo to learn more about working inside of Taskray and managing tasks and logging Taskray time. So we'll let them describe all that great capability in their project management and customer onboarding solution during next week's webinar. An important element of Taskray that is occurring is the concept of logging time. And so if Maggie starts working on a task, and there are a number of different ways that she can log time in Taskray. But here we'll just say that she's getting started on this welcome email, and she spent an hour preparing and organizing that. We're going to mark that as a billable task. And I'm going to log that on Maggie's behalf here. And save it. Okay, so really demonstrating the concept of time logging in Taskray. And so based on all of that work that is being done, another critical and important element of Flux capacity is measurement of resources. So we've seen the forecasting, but how do we know how well our resources have been performing? in recent time periods. And so here we provide out of the box a Flux, what we call the Flux actual utilization dashboard. So here we're seeing, based on actual time logs that are being entered into the system by our resources, compared against their individual utilization targets, and then of course also factoring that time that they may be out of the office to tell us true capacity, we're able to see some highly accurate and real-time utilization metrics. So here we're able to see last week's final numbers across the entire company, and we can of course filter that to team if we want, but across the entire company, we're actually utilized close to 100%. So it was a hard week of work for our teams, and we can see individual accomplishments or performances. Brooke and Maggie really put in stellar weeks and certainly deserve some recognition for hard work getting over a hump with a big project. We can also measure this utilization in total as what I was showing in this top set of components, but towards the bottom we can actually see some of those breakpoints that we mentioned earlier, our ability to really measure resources on billable and non-billable utilization. So we're actually able to see here that we're really close to where we want to be to drive our billable operation. But we're also able to take advantage of some time where resources had some availability to work on some non-billable work as well. And as I mentioned, we can look at utilization in a real-time state. So here I flip the view from last week to this week to date, and I'm seeing everything up to and including today's time logs. And obviously Friday is still a day that's early going, so we don't have all of today's results in, but we can see where we're trending for this week in real time. Another key element of our utilization engine is the ability and why we actually establish our utilization targets at a daily increment, is that gives us great ability to be super granular and also to establish any custom range for our utilization reporting. So if you measure your resources on monthly utilization or quarterly utilization, or even if you just want to see how people have been doing over the first 15 days of a month, we can deliver those types of analytics here through the system in real time. Okay, so with that, that completes obviously a very high level and a quick demo of resource intelligence with Flux Capacity.